That down. Let's move on to this, shall we? Armie Hammer really kind of burst onto the scene with Social Network. And this is how good he was in Social Network. I didn't know until after my second screening that it was the same guy playing the twins. I honestly thought it was two different twins. People. Yeah. I couldn't believe, first of all, the compositing work on that is amazing. Mm-hmm. But the performance was also great. Like, the performance was incredible. And then, whether it was Call Me By Your Name or Man from U.N.C.L.E. or whatever, he started building up a pretty big career. And that all came crashing down a couple years ago when there was a bunch of controversies around him. Some allegations were made. Things about, again, I've showed this picture before, but this was me with Armie Hammer, 6'5", and I just realized that he's looking at me like I'm delicious. And that's the smile of a hungry man right there. Anyway. And so he kind of disappeared, but now he's back, as Deadline is reporting that Armie Hammer has now signed on for his first movie in years. Deadline writes this: Armie Hammer, who hasn't acted in more than 3 years following the 2021 sexual assault allegations, is set to return to a film set with the Western Frontier Crucible. This is the project we revealed yesterday, starring Thomas Jane. I love Thomas Jane. And produced by Bone Tomahawk. I love Bone Tomahawk. And Dragged Across Concrete. I also love that producer, Dallas Saunier. Filming is due to get underway on the independently financed film next month in Monument Valley and Prescott, Arizona. All right. So, on a purely acting point of view, for a minute, we'll talk about this from several different angles here. From a purely acting point of view, I think Armie Hammer's great. I've always enjoyed seeing him in movies. He hasn't always been in the best movies. That Lone Ranger thing was a disturbing experience. But he's always been great. And his performance in Call Me By Your Name that he did with Timothée Chalamet was remarkable. I loved him in Man from U.N.C.L.E. I just think the guy's a really, really great lawyer. But, it became kind of difficult to even talk about Armie Hammer when all the allegations came out. Of course, there was that little documentary thing too that came out, and we talked about that when that came out and all that kind of stuff. So how do I feel about him coming back? How I feel about him coming back is not going to be popular, and that's okay. But it's this paragraph here that's in the Deadline report. Hammer's A-list Hollywood career was derailed back in 2021 when multiple women came forward with claims of abuse against him. Hammer denied the allegations, but had to abandon several projects and was dropped by his talent agency and publicist. Now, here's the key thing. After an investigation into Hammer by the LA County District Attorney and the Los Angeles Police Department, they declined to pursue criminal charges against him, citing insufficient evidence. He remains without representation other than his lawyer. Okay. Now, my feelings on this might be more reflective of the fact that I've worked in the legal system. But, you see, here's the thing to me. I think when allegations are made, they need to be taken seriously. But I also believe that when investigations are launched by district attorneys, by police, by all that kind of stuff, if someone then goes to court and they're found guilty in a court of law, that needs to be taken seriously. If they get taken to court and they're found not guilty, I think that needs to be taken seriously. But if the district attorneys and the police don't even get it to the point of a trial, like, it's one thing for it to go to trial, like they have enough evidence, they take it to trial, and then a judge or a jury deemed them not guilty. Okay, we take that seriously. But if they've done an investigation, they say there's not even enough here, we don't have enough evidence that we can even bring this to trial. I kind of feel like, regardless of my personal feelings, hey, if they investigated and they said we don't have anything here, everybody is going to be free and will, of course, feel the way they want to individually feel about this, and I respect that. I have my own feelings too. But the guy needs to be allowed to then continue his career. Allegations were made. They were taken seriously. They were investigated. And they said, we don't have enough here. At that point, I don't know that it's just that he should be now excommunicado from his career for the rest of his life when an investigation was done and they said, we don't have enough here to substantiate this. I think the guy's got to be allowed. Now, will I still feel a little awkward seeing Armie in movies? Possibly, but that's not the point here. The point is he should be allowed to continue on with his career if due diligence was done, if investigations were conducted, and they said, we don't even have enough here to charge him with. Then what did or didn't happen behind the scenes that we may never be privy to, I don't know, but the guy's got to be allowed to continue. I felt the same way about, why am I freezing on Kang's name for a second? Jonathan Majors. I felt the same way about Jonathan Majors. Like, you know what? The guy went to trial. They found him not guilty of a bunch of things, guilty of a couple things. There were penalties subscribed for the things he was guilty of, and he's paid the price. Once we've done that, we've got to say you should be allowed to move on now with your career. And I know it's going to be an unpopular thing to say, but regardless of how I feel about Armie or how icky or not icky I'm going to feel seeing him on screen again, that's all irrelevant. The guy should be allowed to move on the screen. Guys, we want to take a second to thank a sponsor of today's video, The Perfect Jean. Look, you guys know I've been talking about The Perfect Jean for a while now. I absolutely love these. They fit like a dream, they look fantastic, and they are so comfortable, you forget you're even wearing pants. We all love jeans, but look, we all also know they can be a little bit uncomfortable for the boys, but not with The Perfect Jean. These jeans fit like they were custom made, stretch like you wouldn't believe, and they look absolutely fantastic. The Perfect Jean also has a seriously massive range of sizes, everything from 26 to 50 and lengths of 26 to 38. These have become my absolute go-to jeans whenever I'm hanging around the house or even going out for the day. And listen, the Perfect Jean isn't even just pants. They've revolutionized t-shirts as well. The Perfect Tee has just enough stretch to hide that beer belly while accentuating your arms and chest for that flawless look. My guys, it's finally time to stop crushing your balls in uncomfortable jeans by going to theperfectjean.nyc. Our listeners get 15% off your first order, plus free shipping, free returns, and free exchanges when you use the code Campea at checkout. That's 15% off for new customers at theperfectjean.nyc with the promo code Campea. And after you purchase, they'll ask you where you heard about them. Please support the John Campea Show and tell them we sent you. F your khakis and get the Perfect Jean. Anyway, Chris, look, there's no denying this is a sticky kind of topic, and I don't actually believe there's any truly right answer. There's going to be a lot of nuance to this. And it's not like a big Warner Brothers film he's coming back in, but still, he's back. What's your response to this, and what's your reaction to this?
It's definitely a messy situation because we had several exes of his come forward with the cannibalistic fantasies, the House of Hammer documentary, and then of course the allegations of sexual abuse and potential rape.
The real serious stuff.
And that's the actual stuff, because he was in an interview with People yesterday talking about his new podcast, Hammer Time. So
which, by the way, is a
woof.
Actually, a very good name for a podcast.
But,
I think it's actually a very good name for a podcast.
And he started talking about how like the cannibal stuff is like, oh, it's so funny to me because, it's just something people said to get headlines and things. It's difficult to decide. I always feel that people do deserve second chances, and that if somebody is not guilty of a crime, it's not something that should hang over their head. However, sexual assault is something that is so difficult to prove beyond reasonable doubt. Right? That is something that is really, really difficult, especially when it is involving people acting out sexual fantasies of theirs, which is one of the things that this story involved, was a very, very specific kind of kink supposedly happening where somebody wanted to go through some kind of attack fantasy, allegedly, right? I am not here to kink shame anyone. Whatever you do with somebody consensually is your own business, but that kind of story also can get incredibly messy when you have various narratives about that kind of thing. I don't know how I feel about him or it. I do, and this is something I've really struggled with in the past, and I'm trying to get better at too, of separating the artist from the art. Doesn't mean
that's hard for all of us.
It's really difficult, and it's one of those things that it doesn't mean I'm going to be able to see myself running to theaters to see this, maybe. But I do try to kind of, vote with my dollar or support people with my dollar. And so if I personally don't like an actor or creator or something, I usually just don't give them my money. This is just a situation where it is so involved and there's so much legal hullabaloo around it still that it's difficult to say what's right or what's wrong. It just does feel a bit icky, for lack of a better, more intellectual term.
Yeah. I again, and, it's such a developing thing that I may feel a little differently 2 weeks from now. Like this is not like a hill I'm willing to die on. Like
Yeah.
it's just that, but if someone were to come to me and say, John, you have the power right now. Should this guy be allowed to continue on with his career? Was he charged with anything? No. Then yes. Now, ask me the question, will I go to see the movie? Well, I might give you a different answer to that. But I mean, here's the thing. It's precarious when we want consequences of being guilty applied to somebody who isn't found guilty.
Mhm.
Like, okay, well, I mean, and by the way, I need to reemphasize this. Not only was he not found guilty, they didn't even have enough evidence to even take it to trial, right? Like the DA and the police said, we're not going to press charges. Like we interviewed witnesses, we examined the evidence, and we're not going to take this to trial. I just think it's a very precarious thing when we say, okay, not found guilty, but let's give them the penalty as if they were guilty.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
and I think that's a very human thing there's that word again. I think that's a very human thing for
It was a
me to
human
do.
moment.
I think for us to do, but it's again, sticky situation.
Yeah, I mean, let the guy work, and then you could just not go see the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and it's a very different situation too than I'm not a producer deciding to bring somebody onto something. That's something that would possibly give me pause here of, I don't know if I want you on my set, if you're
Yeah.
a liability or not. I
Yeah,
want my actors
yeah.
to feel comfortable. I want my crew to feel comfortable. Him
Yeah.
existing in films, that has nothing to do with me aside from whether or not I see it.
Yeah. Now, again, if I'm a filmmaker, do I put Armie Hammer in my movie?
I wouldn't.
No, but not because I'm judging him. It's because you would be a problem for our production.
Yeah.
Both with maybe there's people on my production crew that don't feel comfortable, or you're going to be a PR. Having you in my movie might make a PR nightmare. So if I'm a producer, do I put him in my movie? No. If I have another friend who's a producer and is putting him in the movie, do I judge him for that? Also, no. You want to put him in your movie? That's
your
great.
decision, yeah.
But I don't know that I would. Anyway, guys, it's an evolving situation. Whatever you guys think about this, like really murky situation, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. Hey guys, thanks so much for watching this video. Make sure you like the video, leave a comment, and subscribe to our channel. And don't forget, we have a daily podcast called the John Campea Show podcast, available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcasting app of choice. Go and subscribe to it today so it'll be there when you need it.